Is Final Fantasy XIV dying? The short answer? No. Alright, rotation curves going downhill? Check. For people who want to hear me ramble, let's get into it. I've been seeing news, YouTube, Reddit posts, talking and complaining about Final Fantasy and how the game is losing a lot of players and that the game is quote-unquote dying. And hey, it might be them just milking for views, so why don't I just do the opposite to milk it? I'm not saying that their point of view is completely wrong, but I do think that people are hyperbolic about the situation of the game. Recently, there are stats posted that Dawntrail is the first ever expansion where Final Fantasy is losing player in the duration of patch 7.0 and to 7.1. Oh no! How much did we lose? Are Final Fantasy population dying? The answer to that question is it went from 1.4 million player to 1.1 million player concurrent. 1.1 million players. That's still a lot of player. Now, is it a good thing that Final Fantasy lose almost 400k player? No. However, it is far from dying. I've played so many dying games. Dota 2, Apex Legends, Lost Ark. All these games are quote-unquote dying. However, they are still running just fine. I personally would argue, instead of calling the game dying, it's you who are falling out of love for the game. The game has changed tremendously and it's normal to feel alienated. So in this video, we'll cover 3 topics. Why are Final Fantasy is losing player? Why do I think Final Fantasy will be fine? And how Square Enix can turn it back around. Let's jump to the first topic. Why does Final Fantasy losing player? Is Final Fantasy current state good? No, absolutely not. Dawntrail has been echoed as a disappointment by their hardcore fans from the story, balancing, lack of content component. First, the story is lackluster. It's a huge step down from the spectacle of Shadowbringer or Endwalker, which have been cooking for 10 years. Balancing is complete whack currently. Multiple people are already making this complaint about how Picto is so good and it's kinda dumb for not bringing them into a party. And meanwhile, the physical range player doesn't feel like they have any purpose other than adding the 1% to the whole party. And the fact that in Dawntrail there is no content for people who does not raid. People feel betrayed by all the accumulation of what seems to be a bad decision from the development team that they used to trust over the years. You know what's funny? From my perspective, the game has been much better and not worse. And of course, some aspect is going too far, such as how the job plays, but overall, the game has tended to cater more to their core audience, which is the casual to mid-core audience. Secondly, why do I think Final Fantasy will be fine? Do anyone remember about the WoW Exodus? WoW lost millions of players. And is the game dead? Oh, look! The game is still running! What a surprise! People are still enjoying WoW. But why is that? Isn't WoW famous for being run by a greedy and predatory system that milks their player base? Huh, that's weird. Well, for me it's just a nature of life. Nothing can guarantee a growth every time. Sometimes a game will lose its player base and that's normal. And I do get it for the veteran player who played this game for years. It's hard to keep being excited for a game. However, something that Final Fantasy are able to do that most game doesn't is it somehow still attracts new player. And for new player, we have a lot of content to catch up to. This game has been out for more than 10 years. And even if the veteran doesn't run old content anymore, new players is looking for group to experience the old content together all the time. For them, they have so much content that it'll take them years to finish every single content. And this is what I'm currently doing as well. I've been playing this game for a bit over a year, and I still haven't touched Deep Dungeon, Field Exploration, Relic, and all the Shadowbringer and Endwalker raids. So, as long as those content doesn't get removed, I don't see how Final Fantasy will end service anytime soon. And just like how WoW player will keep coming back either due to nostalgia or out of curiosity of checking out new expansions, I think as long as Square Enix have the will to learn from their mistake and change their approach, I think they will always be successful on winning their players back. Which brings me to the next topic. How can Final Fantasy turn it back around? Final Fantasy XIV already have a great system to help and welcoming new player, and how the community treat new player. However, Final Fantasy have so many outdated systems that have already been brought up by the community to be fixed. Clam system, portrait, G-pose, Hrothgar Fiera head clam, and there are more that you can probably think of. Square Enix will have to regain the player trust by listening to them and not ignoring them. Square Enix will also have to focus more on the casual player content, not midcore or hardcore. And this is hard for me to say since I'm personally am a hardcore raider myself. But I acknowledge that we are the minority. The ratio of raider are way smaller than other players who just log into this game to, just chill with their friend. And one of the strong aspects of Final Fantasy is the social aspect, and that being the main focus, it will satisfy the most player. Yes, the hardcore reader might be complaining, but there is far less complaints than if you have to serve for the hardcore audience. Now, will I be sad if there are no raid content being released? Absolutely. And to mitigate this, I think Square Enix have to space different kind of content as evenly as possible. Currently, the fact that Chaotic Raid is released after a new Ultimate is out, it just look like they are serving the hardcore raiders only and neglecting their casual audience. And let's just be clear, I think it is impossible to satisfy a hardcore audience. Why? Because the game design itself is geared towards the casual player. I personally believe that if the hardcore player are unsatisfied with the content, there are way better games that will satisfy that itch. Like WoW, PoE, competitive PvP games, and all the other stuff. Like the director said, if you don't like the set of the game, feel free to play something else, and the game will still be here if you decide to come back. I personally love these games since at some point, I don't have to log in and keep playing, or feel like I have a second job. But that's also come with a risk that I'm gonna run out of content eventually. And I personally am okay with that. I've never good at playing the same game over and over again. Final Fantasy XIV have become the game that I put most hours in, and honestly, it saved me a lot of money not having to keep buying new games every month. And I can stop my stuff at any point when I run out of content and come back when there are content that interests me. But that's all my points why I believe that Final Fantasy is not dying. Comment if you agree or disagree, or if you have any point that I miss. I hope you enjoy. Thank you for watching, and have fun.